In this video, we are going to use Vectorworks 2023 SP4 to look at the document transmittal system that is produced by the combination of using the title block manager and the title block border title blocks. Now what we'll look at is the limited ways that you can customize these worksheets, and by default we will provide two different worksheets, one with the distribution fields at the bottom and the other one with the distribution fields at the top. We'll also look at how you can put your corporate logo in there and look at various other issues that might arise when using this system. What this video won't do is to teach you how to use the title block border or give you an extensive overview of the title block manager. Those two things are covered in other videos. A revision occurs when something has changed in the drawing, and this is an example of what you might see in a title block for the revision list. There'll be a letter generally and a date, some kind of note describing what the revision is and who made the revision. And this number also will typically appear elsewhere in the title block, possibly appended to the drawing number or in a separate field of its own. What also often occurs with revisions is that the parts of the drawing that have been revised will receive a revision cloud with the revision number that was current when that revision was made. An issue occurs when a drawing has been distributed. So whether it's to the client or the builder or a consultant, you'll generally get something like this. It's less common to see this in a title block, but some people put both issues and revisions in a title block. And typically the issues will use numbers. So issue 1, issue 2, issue 3. Now, in Vectorworks, in order to use the transmittals, you can't combine issues and revisions like we're seeing here. And I would certainly advise against doing this anyway, because it just leads to potential confusion over what drawing number any particular recipient has received. So in this scenario here, for example, the initial release is revision A, then it was distributed to the client and to the builder, and the revision number incremented both times, but in fact drawing revision A, B and C, those drawings are all the same because there was no revision to the drawing. And I think this just leads to potential legal liability because there's no clear-cut revision system separated from the issue system. One final thing I wanted to mention with issues and revisions is that you must do issues progressively through the project. When you create an issue, it will record whatever is the current revision number against that issue. And that means that if you were to try and reconstruct retrospectively the set of issues, when you already had a lot of revisions, all of the issues that you would retrospectively create would have the same and most current revision number. So it's important when you're creating transmittals that you create your issues progressively through the project. Let's talk generally about the title block manager, which you can access from the file menu by going down to the title block manager, or if you happen to have a title block selected, you can also use the title block manager button in the object info palette. And initially, unless you've clicked this always do option, you will get a choice as to whether you want to load all files or just the active file. And if you're wanting to push issues, revisions, drawing stamps, etc. to multiple files, then you would choose load all open files, assuming that the open files are the ones you want to deal with. If you're just working with the active file, then you can go ahead and click Load Active File Only. And when you do choose Load Active File Only, this Select Sheets to Use option, which we'll talk about more a bit later in the video, will just have a tick or a check mark beside each of the sheets in the active file. This file here is the other file that's open, and you can see that there are not check marks against that file, but I could then add them here if I wanted to. But we'll look more into this dialog a bit later in the video. Now, because we've got multiple sheets checked, then you'll see this says multiple sheets are marked for application. And just like in the Shape tab of the Object Info palette, when you have multiple objects selected, you get those three little dots at the top that allow you to make changes to everything that's selected, or alternatively to look at the individual objects. So by clicking this option here, you can then thumb through all of the sheets in the drawing and choose one that you may want to, edit the sheet data on, for example, the sheet title or something like that. Otherwise, the information that you're changing here is going to be applying to all the sheets, and likewise with the issues and revisions that might be already there. We've got the revision data, we've got the issue data, you've got a drawing stamp, and again you can, based on the sheets you've got selected up here, you can add a drawing stamp to multiple sheets. Now the document options is important because this is where you choose the numbering system, and here you will see that we have the revision data set to use letters and the issue data set to use numbers. And then we have the worksheet section, and the worksheet section is where we'll be looking at the project revision history, or what we know as the transmittal. And in this dialog you can set the name, you can limit the number of issues that are displayed in the worksheet, and you can choose the layer that the transmittals will get put onto. I mentioned we'd talk about the select sheets to use, and I'm going to open the Title Block Manager and load the active file only. And the thing to note here is that you have to typically visit this dialog multiple times in a session with the Title Block Manager, because you might be adding issues to some sheets, you might be adding revisions to some sheets, then issuing a particular set of sheets, and then ultimately, before you click OK, you still want the full set of drawings to appear in the transmittal. And when you're just doing a few sheets, it's quite easy to come in here and uncheck all, and then just come in here and say, well, I just need to add some revisions to to these sheets, say, and click OK, do the revisions. But then when you come back in here, you don't necessarily want to have to come in here and check every sheet again in the document set, because doing that, even if you use the check uncheck all, you'll notice that it's checked all of the sheets in this other file here, this issues and revisions file, which I'm not interested in, but that button has checked them all. And you'd have to be carefully go in here and turn that off. So what I recommend is that you save the set of drawings that you want to appear in the transmittal, and you can do that by checking the ones that you want to be in the transmittal, clicking save, and calling it, say, complete set or transmittal set, whatever you want to call it, and click OK. Then you're going to see that this is the set. If we make any changes to it, you could see that complete set is now not active up here, which is indicative that there's some difference between this and the full set of what you want to appear in the transmittal. And coming up here and going to complete set will select the sheets again that you want. Now, during the course of a project, it's quite common for sheets to be added to a drawing set, the details, for example, and that means that the complete set won't always include the newest drawings. And so when you come back in here and you have added some drawings, then what you'll need to do is to select the complete set, then come down, choose, put a check mark beside the drawings that have been added, and then resave that set with the same name. Click OK, and it will ask you if you want to replace that existing set, and you click OK, and now that set has been updated with the new drawings. And that way you're spending a lot less time checking sheets in this dialog. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we are providing two different document transmittal templates, worksheets in other words. One with the distribution section at the bottom, which is called Transmittal Distribution Footer, and the other has the distribution section at the top of the worksheet, and this is called Transmittal Distribution Header. Now, the naming of these is important, because whatever the name is here, you have to use nearly all of that name in the title block manager. So the naming for these has to, whatever name you use, it doesn't matter what it is, but it has to end with space, hyphen, space, 1. Now let's just open up this worksheet and have a look at it. Right click, choose open. And this is the worksheet. And if you're familiar with Vectorworks, you'll be familiar with these worksheets. These are not database worksheets, so every time you run the title block manager, it populates the worksheet. And if you were to completely empty the worksheet and you went to the title block manager again, that worksheet would get repopulated again with all of the historical information that was previously in the document transmittal. In this one, we have the distribution section at the bottom, and the other worksheet has the distribution section at the top. The other important thing to note is that with this worksheet, the sheets start on row 12, and in the other worksheet, the sheets start on row 30. So depending on which one of these you use, in the title block manager, you need to make sure that the start row is set to either 12 or to 30. So what can you do to customize these worksheets? Well, of course, a simple thing would be you want to use a different font. So you can just click in that top, just like Excel. If you click in that top left-hand cell there, the intersection of the header and the row columns, then that will select every cell in the worksheet. If you then put the cursor into the worksheet, right-click, choose Format Cells, click on Font, you can come in here then and set the font that you want to use. And doing this is not going to change the size of the text nor the style of the text. It's just going to change the actual font that's used. So that way you can use a font if you want to that's more commonly used in your firm. We've set all of the borders up to use the slimmest borders. So you'll see if I select a couple of these cells and go Format Cells and go to Border, you'll see that they're set to 0.5. But obviously you can thicken them up if you want to, which is another way that you can customize the worksheet. You can also, if you don't want to have these alternate colors, you can change that. Again, you can select the cells, right click, Format Cells, then this time you'd go into Patterns and you can see it's set to solid with that grey color there. The general thing is though that we're going to discourage you from customizing these worksheets beyond perhaps changing the font and very simple things like that, because the person in your firm who does that and has the document knowledge isn't always necessarily going to be there. And one day someone is going to delete this and you're not going to have a copy of it, or something else is going to happen, and suddenly you're going to have to try and recreate the customization that you previously did. And so it's better to just try and work with what we've set out here if you can, and resist having to customize it to the nth degree. One of the other things that we will show you how to do is to put a company logo in the worksheet, which is what we have here. And to do this, what you need to do is to create a symbol of your company logo. It can be a JPEG, it can be a TIFF, it doesn't really matter. Don't make it overly large in terms of its pixel size, because it's only going to be quite small in here, and you're just going to be adding to the overhead of the file if you make this overly large. So something in the order of 100 or 200k should be fine for the size of this logo is. So you save it as a symbol, and then all you have to do here is put the name of the symbol in that section there. So we've named it your logo here. So we have a symbol in this file that's called your logo here, and this is basically saying please put the image in here of the object whose name, N for name, is your logo here, in other words your symbol, and that will put the object in that top cell there. This will automatically get populated depending on how many sheets that you have, whether they fill up here. There's space for 30 sheets in each of these, and these are designed to fit on an A4 page. Now, I mentioned before the ability to limit the number of issues that you see in this worksheet. So currently I think there's 12 or 15 that can be shown here. So this way you don't have to have that much space here if you only want to show the last 12 or last 15. So whatever number of columns you have here is what you will set in this field here, number of issues to display. And that's pretty well it. So we've got this one and we've got the one with the distribution at the top. Now, I mentioned the naming was important. So if you wanted to use the transmittal that had the header at the top, the distribution header at the top of the page, or as a header, then that text there is what you need to put in the title block manager. So I'm going to copy that. So in other words, you drop off the -1 of the space dash space 1. So I've copied that to the clipboard. Let's now jump back in here, go title block manager, load active file only, and we know that all the sheets will have been selected, so we're good to go with that. And so this is where we put that name. So it's exactly the same name, except that we don't have the space hyphen space 1 there. And it's going to put this on the transmittal layer. So if we just go ahead now and click OK, we're going to see that that particular worksheet was populated with the historical information that was stored in the file. And as I mentioned, the distribution section is at the top of the worksheet, and it's created 2 sheets because there were more than 30 sheets in the set, and this system will automatically produce however many pages are required to fit the number of drawings in. And just to show you, there is some flexibility in the system. So what have we got here? Another 3, 6, 9. Let's say there's another 10 or 11 sheets in there. If I was to go into the title block manager, load active file only, and the row count is the number of sheets that we're displaying here. If I increase that to say 45 and click OK, you'll see that we've now fitted all of our sheets in here, and we don't need the second worksheet. The distribution section of the transmittal has to be completed manually, and because of this, and when you have more than one sheet of transmittals, then there's the need to enter the information in more than one worksheet. And I just want to describe a simple way to do that. Let's begin by looking at the page that has the worksheet images on it, and we can double click the first one here and it will open up, and then we can enter the information for the distribution for this first issue here, and put in a name, say it's the client, how many copies, one copy, reason was for information, drawing is a PDF, and the method is email. So we have that information in there now, and we now need to copy that information to the other worksheets. So it's just a simple matter of selecting however much of this you need, and in this case we just need that, and we copy that. So I'm going to copy that from the keyboard. When you're copying from a worksheet, you use this edit menu here to copy, but easier from the keyboard to just do Command C. And then we can close that up, and you'll see that information is now in here. And this time we double click the second worksheet, select this very first cell here and just paste, and that's going to populate that. We can close that and then repeat on the third one here, click in that very first cell there, paste, close that down, and we've got the information in those 3 pages of the worksheet. So the only time that when this can get a little bit more tricky is when you have filled up all of the issue spaces here. Let's say they've been, you've got your 13th issue, so the way that it's set up is it's going to drop off the oldest issue and shuffle everything back one, and that will mean that in this section here that won't happen automatically. So you're going to have to select these ones here, copy them, and then click in this cell and paste, which will effectively shift the items back one, and then you can enter the latest issue information in this column here. So there are a few extra things that I want to talk about here. The first one pertains to page size. So let's just jump into the organization dialog and select all of the sheets that are going to be A1 size, which is basically all of the sheets in this project. If you select all your sheets, or the sheets that you want to set the page size for, which doesn't have to be every sheet, click the edit button, then click page setup. Whatever you set up here will be applied to the sheets that you've got selected. So I just wanted to make that one clear. So how do we fit these 3 pages, get these 3 pages to print? So what we do is we go to page setup. Because this is only one sheet, we can just do it directly in the page setup command. And currently this is set to ISO A3 because that fitted the 2 sheets before, but once you get over 2 sheets you've got to do a bit more work. So what we're going to do is to go to printer setup, and I've got this set to a paper size of borderless A4. If we set it to a non-borderless page size, we'll get more of a little grey boundary around here, which is fine. We can do that. So we set it for that. We then set this to A4 as well, and we want this to be the other way around. So we want this to be 210 in width, 297 in height. And then how many pages we want? We want 3. So we're going to set this to 3 here, and then go ahead and click OK. And if we just zoom out a little bit, you can see that we've got enough space to print 3 sheets. And in that page setup, I had the option checked. Let's just confirm that, to show page breaks. So we will see the page break. So I'm now going to take this one and drag it over to there. Move that one across a bit. Put that one, snap it to there, and then this one just needs to be in the middle. If I use the distribute command with spacing, that's going to put that into the middle. Then if I just go export PDF, I can export the 3 pages. So we would go here, pages from 1 to 3, rather than leaving it export the whole printable area as 1 page. You set it up as 3 pages, and then when you click export, you'll get a 3-page PDF. Now, one other little tip in here, and that is that there is the ability to scale these. Now, you can't set this by default, so if you do it and you recreate the worksheets at any point in time, then you will need to rescale them. But if you wanted to make these just a tiny bit smaller, you could set that scale factor to say 0.95, and that's just going to shrink this down a little bit. It's best if you can just leave it at 1, because then you don't have to worry about it. But this way we've got our 3 sheets on here and we're good to go. So let's now pull all this together and run through a sample project in a brief sort of way. One of the things that I didn't mention in the select sheets to use when we save a set was that those save sets will appear in any document you open. So you need to be specific about which project the save set applies to. So what I'm going to do is to use the project number, this number here, and let's say it's 2023001. I'll just copy that, and that will populate to all of the title blocks in the drawing. So there's our number there. So we need to preface any saved set with that number so we know which project it applies to. So going to the title block manager. Now this is a template file, and let's assume that only a few of the sheets have been developed at this point in time. So if we go select sheets to use, and I'm going to uncheck and then check the general arrangement plans. And assume that these are the first set that are going to be released. So let's go ahead and save that. And remember, I copied that project number. Complete set. So that's what we need to save. Now, just remembering that when you open a completely different project, this saved set here is going to be there. Okay, there's a save set from another project. Alright, so we've got our save set, and let's assume that the initial release is going to be these drawings, and the initial issue is going to be these drawings. So we'll go ahead here and click OK, and that means that for the revision data we can add a revision that will just apply to those sheets. And we can add an issue. And let's say this was just, maybe for some preliminary discussion with the client. So it's going to be issued to the client. And we don't really know what other sheets will be generated at this point in time. So we're happy just to see those sheets in the document transmittal. So we check the create, update, project revision history. We put in the transmittal distribution header that we want. We want the multiple page worksheet. We know that this starts on row 30 and we'll put 30 sheets into the transmittal. We'll go ahead and click OK to that, and then we'll go to the layer that has our transmittals on it, and we see exactly in here what we're expecting. You know, this is maybe a preliminary release or something like that. So we've just developed these drawings at this point in time, and the initial release is here, and you know, we can put some information in here. And there's our transmittal completed. So let's say our meeting with the client goes well and we're good to progress further with the project. So we'll visit the title block manager again. And this time we will say that some more sheets have been developed. So we'll uncheck all of these, and let's say that we've now added the elevations. So we'll add these and perhaps a section. So these are new to our document. So we click OK. And this is going to be the initial release of those drawings. So we need to add the initial release as a revision. So we'll go add. Now we want to, let's say we want to now send these to the engineers to get some preliminary information or something like that. So what we need to do now is to come in here and select sheets to use, and remember that we've got these sheets that we want to issue plus our original sheets. So I'm going to check these ones as well, add GA sheets, and that now becomes the set of sheets that we want to appear in the document transmittal. Now remember that we had, this is our previous complete set. If I click rename, I can copy that name. Just cancel that, save, paste that name in there, replace that existing set, and now we've updated our saved set. So click OK. Now we need to do an issue for that group of sheets. So we'll go add, issuing to the engineer. I'll click OK. And you can see that we've now got the drawings that we selected to go in the transmittal. These are currently only the only completed drawings in the set. So we would come in here, just copy that, paste there, and our next transmittal is good to go. So this is basically the workflow that you'll go through. So let's say our meetings went well, and now we need to make some amendments as a result of the meetings. And select sheets to use. So let's just confirm we've got our completed set. and let's say there were changes to 2 of the elevations and some of the general arrangement plans. So we'll add a revision for that, which will be revision B. And we'll go ahead with that. So we've got that revision in there. But let's say now, as well as those amendments, we've also developed the rest of the drawing. And so we need to do the initial release on the other drawings. So the easiest way to do that is probably just going to be to select all. This obviously can be a bit tedious until the drawing set gets nearly complete. So we'll go ahead and click OK to that, and we'll do a revision on that. Initial release of those sheets. Now let's say we want to issue the whole complete set of drawings. So we'll come in here and we can just check that to check all of the drawings, but just to be consistent, let's come in here and replace that, and then we'll do an issue let's say this is for tender or something like that. And so you can see we've got a mixture of sheets and revisions, and now that's looking much better. Finally, I just wanted to talk about a few little issues that you can have in using the document transmittals. Here we've got our 3 set out here, and let's go ahead and export a PDF of this. And it all looks pretty good, but we can see that the issue numbers are just not quite appearing at the bottom here. There's a few ways we could deal with this, possibly change the vertical alignment of the text, reduce the width of some of these rows, something like that. But what I'm going to do is actually reduce the number of sheets by 1. So currently there's 30 sheets here. I'm going to reduce that to 29. So let's jump into the title block manager, load active file, and we'll change this to 29. Click OK, and that's just bumped a couple of sheets up into this 3rd page here. And if we do the export PDF again, that now looks good. A typical project will likely have various stages like design development, documentation, tender, construction, and so on. And it's not unusual to want to clean out the transmittals between those stages. And I'm just going to describe how you can do that. There's 2 things that we need to do. The first is to actually clean out the information in the worksheets, and also the second thing is to go to the title block manager and delete the issues and revisions. So let's begin with the worksheet. So double click on this, select the cells that you want to clear out, which will be just this information here, clear contents, and you probably want to clear out this and this as well. it may be that you want to keep the list of companies or possibly clear that out as well, and clear out all but the first one in here as well. So we'll just do this for we can do that, and then all of these. And then just the last one. Okay, so we've got those cleared out, and then we need to go to the title block manager. We'll go to the issue data, delete all, delete from all, okay, revision data, delete all. And basically at this point we're back to square one. If we click OK, it'll just run through and update the information. So then we're good to start again. So we'd begin with adding a revision. Whatever you want to put in there. And there we are, ready to go on the next stage.